On the morning of the 30th of September 2024, people traveling along the Gohana road in Haryana noticed something unusual. A completely burnt car was standing on the roadside. Out of curiosity, when the villagers went near the vehicle, they were shocked to discover a charred body lying inside. Within minutes, fear spread across the entire area, and people from nearby villages began gathering in large numbers. The number plate revealed that the car belonged to Narendra Singh, a resident of Bichpadi village in Gohana, Sonipat. Among the crowd was Narendra Singh, who recognized the burnt body as his cousin brother Narendra. As soon as the information reached the police, SIO Mahipal Singh from Gohana Sadar police station arrived at the scene along with a forensic team. After inspecting the car and the surroundings, the police sent the body for post-mortem and registered a case of murder and destruction of evidence against unknown persons. During questioning, Anirudh told the police, "My cousin, 38-year-old Narendra, had been working as a driver for a businessman named Kambal Kishore for about a year. On the night of 29th September, he didn't return home. His phone was switched off. Later, someone informed us about the burnt car. When we reached here, we found Narendra's body on the back seat. Someone killed him, put his body in his own Swift Dzire car, and burnt it in a planned manner. We want strict action against the killers." The next day, the police handed over the body to the family. As the investigation deepened, shocking details began to emerge. The police discovered that Narendra's wife Reena and his friend Satpal were involved in an illicit relationship. Call details revealed that Reena and Satpal spoke for hours every day. Their WhatsApp chats also contained intimate messages. Even on the night of the murder, both were in constant contact. When police detained Reena and Satpal and questioned them separately, they eventually confessed. What they revealed was horrifying. Narendra was the eldest child in his family. He had 2 married sisters. He and Reena were married for 9 years and had 4 children, 1 son and 3 daughters. Earlier, Narendra managed farming in his village, but after his parents passed away, expenses increased, and Reena repeatedly asked him to look for a job outside. Narendra had experience driving both cars and trucks, so he started searching for employment. Soon he got a job with businessman Kambal Kishore, who owned taxis. Narendra began earning well and even rented a small 2-room house in Vishnu Nagar, Gohana, where he shifted with Reena and the kids. One day, after dropping passengers, Narendra was waiting for another fare at Sonipat railway station when a young man carrying 2 bags hurried toward his taxi. He asked for a ride to a village near Gohana. Narendra agreed. As they drove through a lonely stretch, the man said he needed to go to Bichpadi village. Hearing his own village's name, Narendra slowed down and asked, "Brother, who are you visiting there?" The man replied, "What do you mean? I belong to the same village." Narendra laughed. "I'm from Bichpadi too." The man introduced himself as Satpal, and at that moment Narendra suddenly braked the car and jumped out with excitement. "Satpal, it's been 8 to 10 years since I last saw you. I'm Narendra, your childhood friend." Both hugged each other tightly, overwhelmed by emotions and old memories. Narendra insisted, "Tonight you will stay with me. Tomorrow I'll drop you home myself." That one decision became the biggest mistake of his life. When Satpal stayed that night with Narendra's family, everything felt warm and familiar. Reena cooked dinner. The children played around them, and Narendra proudly introduced Satpal as his childhood brother. But behind the smiles, Satpal's eyes repeatedly drifted toward Reena. She was polite, soft-spoken, and treated Satpal with the same respect she gave her husband's relatives. That night, as everyone slept, a dangerous seed was planted in Satpal's mind, one that would slowly grow into obsession. In the following weeks, Satpal began visiting Narendra's home frequently. Sometimes he came with excuses and sometimes with gifts for the children. Narendra, being a trusting and innocent man, saw Satpal's visits as a blessing from the past. But Reena began noticing that Satpal often stared at her when Narendra wasn't looking. She felt uncomfortable yet said nothing, afraid that it might create misunderstandings. But the silence only encouraged Satpal further. Gradually, Satpal started messaging Reena. At first, the messages were harmless, asking about her health, the children, or whether Narendra had reached work safely, but slowly his tone became more personal. Reena ignored him at first, but Satpal was persistent. One evening, he confessed his feelings bluntly. Reena was shocked, but rather than cutting ties, she tried to explain politely that she was a married woman. This only made Satpal more determined. To him, her gentle refusal wasn't rejection. It was hope. Over time, Reena's loneliness made her vulnerable. Narendra's job required long hours. Some days he worked late into the night. Meanwhile, Satpal kept showing exaggerated concern for her, calling, messaging, and visiting whenever Narendra wasn't around. Reena knew it was wrong, but emotional weakness made her respond. Their chats grew bolder, their phone calls longer, and slowly an illicit relationship began. A relationship built on secrecy, guilt, and dangerous passion. But passion quickly turned into frustration for Satpal. He wanted Reena completely. He hated the fact that she belonged to someone else. Every time Narendra hugged his kids or shared a laugh with Reena, jealousy burned inside Satpal like fire. Soon he began manipulating Reena emotionally, telling her that Narendra didn't deserve her, that he kept her trapped, that she would never be happy as long as he lived. Reena didn't agree, but she also didn't stop him. And silence in situations like this is often as strong as acceptance. One night, Satpal crossed a line. He told Reena that he couldn't tolerate seeing her with Narendra anymore. He said, "If you truly love me, then get rid of him. Only then we can live together." Reena panicked. She asked him to stop talking like that, but Satpal had already made up his mind. What started as obsession had now transformed into a murderous fantasy. He began convincing himself that Narendra's death was the only way to free Reena. For days, Satpal pressured Reena, calling her continuously, emotionally blackmailing her, making her feel guilty whenever she tried to step back. Reena, trapped between fear and emotional weakness, didn't directly refuse. Her silence, her hesitation, and her emotional reliance on Satpal gave him the confidence he needed. Satpal interpreted everything the way he wanted. He thought Reena secretly wanted Narendra gone. Eventually, Satpal began planning the murder. He watched Narendra's routine, studied his routes, and even tracked the places where he parked the taxi. The plan had to be clean, quick, and impossible to trace back to them. Satpal decided to strike on a night when Narendra would be alone in the car, far away from crowded locations. On 29 September 2024, the opportunity arrived. Narendra received a late-night passenger booking. He left home after dinner and drove toward Sonipat. Reena knew he wouldn't be back until morning. That night, Satpal called her several times. Their conversations were filled with tension, guilt, and fear. And then, close to midnight, Satpal told her, Tonight is the night. As Narendra drove through a quiet stretch of highway, he saw a familiar figure waving him down. It was Satpal. Thinking his friend needed help, Narendra stopped the car without hesitation. Little did he know he was stepping into a trap carefully designed by the very person he trusted the most. Satpal sat in the back seat. Narendra smiled in the rearview mirror and joked, "What happened? Running away from home at midnight?" Satpal forced a smile. His hands trembled slightly. He waited until the road became darker and lonelier. And then he struck. As the road grew darker and the sound of passing vehicles faded into silence, the atmosphere inside the taxi shifted. Narendra kept talking casually, unaware of the storm brewing in the back seat. Satpal's breathing grew heavier. His fingers tightened around the metal rod he had hidden under his jacket. For a moment he hesitated. Memories of childhood flashed before him. The days they played together, laughed together, shared food from the same plate. A part of him whispered, "Don't do this." But the louder voice inside him repeated, "Reena belongs to you." And that obsession drowned every other thought. Without warning, Satpal swung the metal rod and struck Narendra on the head. The blow was so sudden, so forceful that Narendra didn't even get a chance to defend himself. Blood splattered across the dashboard. Narendra tried to speak, tried to move, but Satpal struck again. And again, until the car fell silent except for Satpal's own panicked breaths. When Narendra finally stopped moving, Satpal sat motionless, staring at the lifeless body of the man who once called him brother. His hands shook violently. The reality of the murder hit him like a wave. But instead of guilt, fear, or regret, his mind wandered back to one thing: Reena. He pulled out his phone, hands trembling, and called her. Whispering breathlessly, he said, "It's done." Reena, shocked and terrified, didn't speak for several seconds. Her silence made Satpal even more unstable. In his twisted mind, he believed she was finally his. Satpal now needed to erase every trace of the crime. He dragged Narendra's body into the back seat, wiped his fingerprints from the steering wheel, and decided to destroy the car. For the next few hours, he drove around thinking of the safest place. He ended up taking the car to the lonely stretch near Gohana Road. There he poured petrol inside the car, lit a match, and watched the flames consume both the vehicle and Narendra's body. The fire grew so fast and so bright that Satpal had to step back. As the flames reflected in his eyes, he imagined a new life with Reena. A life entirely built on blood. By morning, Satpal returned home acting as if nothing had happened. He cleaned himself, washed his clothes, and even greeted neighbors casually. But when news of the burnt car spread through the village and people started gathering, fear finally caught up to him. He knew the police would eventually find out he was the last person with Narendra that night. Meanwhile, the police investigation was already moving fast. The first breakthrough came through the call detail records. Reena and Satpal had spoken for hours the day before the murder, and their late-night calls on the night of the murder raised immediate suspicion. The police also found several romantic and emotional WhatsApp messages between them. These messages proved that their relationship was not just casual. It was deep, emotional, and possibly the motive behind the killing. When both were detained and questioned separately, their stories didn't match. Satpal broke first. His confession was emotional, chaotic, and filled with desperation. He blamed his obsession, his loneliness, and his belief that Reena wanted to be with him. But the police noticed something else. Satpal repeatedly said, "Reena told me Narendra didn't deserve her." It was clear Satpal felt encouraged, even if indirectly. Reena's interrogation was calmer. She admitted to the affair but claimed she never asked Satpal to kill Narendra. She said she only wanted emotional support because Narendra was always busy with work. She also insisted that she didn't know Satpal's intentions would turn murderous. But the police weren't convinced. Her silence, her continuous communication with Satpal, and her emotional involvement made her morally and legally responsible. By evening, both were arrested under charges of murder, conspiracy, and destruction of evidence. When the news reached the village, shock turned into anger. Narendra's family was devastated. His children, too young to understand the depth of the loss, kept asking, "When will Papa come home?" His relatives couldn't accept that the man who had welcomed an old friend into his home with love had been betrayed so brutally. The entire village mourned for a man who died because he trusted too easily. During the final charge sheet, police concluded that although Reena did not physically participate in the murder, her emotional involvement, continuous communication, and silent encouragement played a major role in pushing Satpal toward the crime. Satpal admitted that he killed Narendra because he believed Reena would love him more if her husband was gone. In court, both were held accountable, Satpal as the murderer and Reena as the silent conspirator whose decisions fueled the tragedy. Narendra's family still struggles with the pain. His children are now being raised by his relatives, and the villagers still talk about how a simple act of kindness, inviting a childhood friend home, turned into the biggest mistake of Narendra's life. Truthfully, the case leaves behind a chilling reminder. Sometimes the most dangerous enemies are not strangers, but the ones we trust the most. And now, even after the investigation is complete, one haunting question still remains unanswered. Did Reena truly never want Satpal to kill Narendra, or was her silence the darkest form of approval? What do you think?